Hey guys, it's Emma
and Maggie,
and welcome back to another episode of Love Ya Bye.
Today's guest is a close friend of ours, and we're so excited to have him on the show. And please welcome Chase McCann. I've never said your last name. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Chase McCann.
I've gotten McCann, like the Porsche Macan.
Okay.
Yeah, people are like, oh my god, like did your family
Okay, Porsche.
did your family start Porsche? And I'm like, yeah, no.
Today we're going to be talking all about relationship advice from a male perspective with Chase and answer some of you guys' questions that you had for him on Instagram stories. We're so excited. You guys sent in so many good questions, and I'm really excited to get into everything and to have you guys get to know Chase a little bit more. But first, we're going to start off with our peek in the pit of the week. And this is our weekly tradition where we share the highest and lowest moments of the week and what happened to you. So Chase, I'm going to let you start off.
Okay.
Your peek in your pit of the week.
Okay. Pit. I don't think I really have a pit other than the weather outside has just been rainy, windy. I like being outside a lot, so that's kind of but next week is like 80 degrees.
Yeah, I saw
I know,
that
I'm
last
so excited
night.
with that.
Like 3
The
days
day
in a row.
Cisco opens is going to be 80 degrees,
80.
I guess.
Yeah. So if you're in Boston on Thursday, you can find me at Cisco.
We gotta go.
If you want to see Chase in person, he will be
I will
at
be
Cisco.
at Cisco. And then my peak is I'm actually flying back to Oregon tonight. Have not been back home since like July.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so going home, get to see the fam, and yeah, that's my peak.
Oh my God, that's gonna be so nice. And how long are you gonna be there for?
I come back on Easter, so I'm
okay.
there tonight to Sunday.
That'll be fun. Oh my God, I love that.
I'll go next.
I know what your pit's already gonna be.
Oh, okay. I'm going to start with my pit. My pit would probably have to be, I woke up this morning and I did my whole little morning. I let the dog out. I fed her. I just let her chill while I was taking a shower. I come back downstairs and I had a brand new in the package, every single shade of the Persona blush, the cream blush, and the cream bronzer. And Miss Cleo over here decides to take my favorite shade, Bubble, bright pink. All the rest of them had like punctures and like everything, whatever. But she wanted to eat Bubble. Oh my gosh, it's all over the couch, her paws. It was just completely like ripped out of the package. So that was that. It's okay though. We're all fine. Everyone survived. Dog's fine. My peak is that the weather's starting to get nice. I feel like this time of year I really like when it's transitioning to become warmer. I was listening to country music last night. Like sometimes I don't know, like playing music like before bed, like country music on a speaker. I was just laying there and all I was thinking of was like summertime, like certain songs like Forever After All by Luke Combs was playing, and all I could think of was the summer and like driving through the streets and it just being so nice and
Windows
it made
down.
me so happy. Like I honestly just wanted to cry because I was so happy.
You reposted a TikTok the other day. Peyton and I were talking about it. That was like a New England
I knew that you were
summer.
gonna say, for some reason, me reposting that, I knew because you saw it, you liked it,
Yeah.
and I knew that you were gonna say something to
Oh,
her about it.
I literally saw it. Oh no, Peyton the other day was like, do you ever think about like we're really about to not go home and like spend a whole summer like out
I was
here?
just gonna ask you, is
Yeah.
this your first New England summer?
Yes.
Oh my God, it's gonna
you
be
guys
so
are
special.
really in. You guys are gonna be in for something. New England summers are the best in the world.
Right.
We're gonna have the best nights ever.
And I feel like it's gonna make you like fall in love with Boston even more.
Oh, for sure.
Like it's just so
Not even Boston,
different.
but like the suburbs of Boston.
well, yeah, like the Cape.
I've never been to the Cape or even like really the coast
Yeah, I mean,
at all.
yeah.
Best time of year to be on the Cape.
But so like that TikTok, like Peyton and I were like sitting in the car and we were both just like, oh my God.
Yeah, because it's so different here than where you're from.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
So, oh my God, I'm so excited. What is my peak in my pit? Okay, I think my peak, honestly, that we had such a fun weekend this past weekend. We went to the Celtics game Friday. Saturday, we hung out, ate dinner together, watched the, what would you call that tournament? Like March Madness? Sunday, we went to the Red Sox game.
We kind of did a lot.
We did a lot. We had a social weekend and it was so much fun. Like the Red Sox, they had opening day last week, so it was like their second or third game. All of us went to the game, me, Chase, Emma, Peyton, Mac, Lexi, and it was so much fun. We got drinks, we had food.
But we didn't just get food.
Oh my God, we got literally everything on the menu.
Full-on buffet.
It was so good. 4 lobster rolls, burgers, fries,
Cookies,
hot dogs,
chicken
fingers,
sausages with peppers and onions. It was so good. So that was my peak. My pit, what is my pit? I don't think that I have a pit really. Yeah, nothing has been like, everything's been good.
Yeah.
I don't have a pit.
It's really hard to like, especially when the weather's good. For me, the weather determines mood.
Same.
So much.
Same.
So, yeah.
Everything's been good. I feel like life is just on the up and up.
Yeah.
You know, like for us New England people, it's like once it gets to this time of year, there's really nothing to complain about.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get on into the episode.
Okay, Chase, let's get to know a little bit more about you. Where did you grow up and what brought you to Boston?
So I'm from a suburb outside of Portland, Oregon called Lake Oswego, Oregon. It's probably 15 minutes outside of the city. It's actually like the neighboring suburb to West Lynn, which is where Peyton's from. So after college, I moved to San Diego. My older sister used to live in San Diego. So the summer before I graduated, I moved down there and lived with her for the whole summer, just because I wanted to be in San Diego. And then during that whole summer, once school started again, I was like, okay, once I graduate, that's where I'm living, in San Diego, just because to me, it's the best weather in the country by far. It's like 75 to 85, never gets over 85, and there's zero humidity. So it's amazing.
And you're
it's
right
not
on the
dry.
water.
Right on the water, yeah. And so I moved down there. I moved down there to do like freelance photo and video stuff. Right after I graduated, it actually took me like 8 months. I was working for my dad, and he's a general contractor, so like building houses, which is just like the furthest thing from what I wanted to be doing. But I saved up like 15 grand, and I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna go down to San Diego with 15 grand. I can, pay my first and last month's rent, and then, build my network and start doing the photo and video stuff. That just like couldn't have been further from the case. Like in your head, you think you have it all figured out. And then I actually have a funny story, side note, of when I was moving to San Diego, I drove. So that's like a 16.5-hour drive.
All the way down the West Coast you drove?
Yeah, well, I've actually done that drive because when my sister lived there, I drove also.
Wow.
I've gone down and back from Portland to San Diego 6 times.
Huh?
Or like, cause down 3 times and back up 3 times. The trip that I was moving, I stopped in San Francisco. I drove with my friend Tom, and we stopped in San Francisco at our friend's place. Kind of as like a good like midway. And so we stayed at our friend's place midway. I took all of like my expensive things out of my car just cause theft, and we were in the city and stuff like that. So I took out like my TV and like all those things, most of my clothes. Woke up at 2 a.m. to drive back to San Diego. 4 of my windows were shattered.
No.
Half of my clothes were gone. Actually, no. I'd say 80% of my clothes were gone. I had shorts. So like, if you know me, my favorite clothing item is hoodies. All of my hoodies were gone. The worst part was that my very, very first camera that I ever bought for myself was gone. And that was something that like I just kept on a shelf, cause like, it's like this, it was the start of everything, gone. And then I called my mom at like 4 a.m, and I was like, what do I do? And she was like, you can, wait and get your car fixed, or like kind of figure it out. I drove to San Diego without.
All the way from San Francisco. No way. With no windows. So was there
So
like
it was my back window was gone, and then my 2 side windows were gone.
in the back seat?
Yeah. Okay. And then it's actually funny because to listen to music, since it was so loud on the freeway, my friend Tom and I just each put an AirPod in and like shuffled music and just finished the rest of the drive.
Was there like glass flying everywhere?
Oh yeah. I mean, like you could like, it was still sitting like on top of the clothes and stuff that I still did have.
Oh my God.
And so like that, like I got to San Diego, paid to get my stuff fixed. So there goes like $5,000 of the 15 that I had. And then my rent was like, let's just call it like 1,000. So first and last 2,000. So there's another $2,000. And like that 15,000 quickly diminished like so fast. Anyway, I'll speed up the story. But so then I started working at a bar because I had to pay rent, and that's one thing that I've kind of always done to keep like that photo and video stuff alive. You got to work these side jobs. And so I was at work one day. Peyton and I had like our friendship was getting super close. We had gone on a trip together, and he literally called me while I was at work, and he was like, "Hey, how long do you like plan on living in San Diego for?" And I was like, I've been here for 4 months, so I'd say I got about like 4 more years. Like I have 5, I don't know. And he was like, would you want to move to Boston maybe? And I'm like, I don't know, like I'd have to think about it. You know, I kind of had this whole plan for myself, and he was like, if you come out here, help me with my social media stuff, you know, help me with my day-to-day things, like kind of like assistant stuff, like I'll take care of you. And I like, it wasn't like an instant thing for me to just like pick up and go, because I was like, I'd never been to Boston before, or I had visited him for like 2 days.
And that's like all the way across the country.
So geographically, Boston is the furthest city in the country from Portland, Oregon.
Really?
Yeah. So it took me like 3 days, but then I was like, my dream was to always work in the NBA or like be around it. So it kind of became like someone holding keys to a door that was larger than life. So I was like, okay. So then I finished like the rest of my lease was like 3 more months, and then Peyton came back for the off season. So spent the summer with him in Oregon, and then we flew to Boston, and I moved here September 12th of 2021.
Oh my God. So it's been like a year and a half.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love that little story.
Yeah.
Also, it's like crazy because you never know, like obviously when you were moving to San Diego and all that stuff happened, and all your stuff got stolen and your car got smashed in, it's like you didn't know that just like that happening and you going there for a few months was gonna lead to what it is now.
For sure.
It's like crazy. A lot of the time too, like it's really hard in the moment to not think about like, the worst case and stress about the future and be like, okay, well, this is what was supposed to happen, and like you had this whole plan, and it's like easy to stress about it and stress about every little thing and like how you're gonna get to a certain place. But I swear, like opportunities and like what's meant to happen in your life like comes out of nowhere when you're like least expecting it.
I'm a firm believer of, and I haven't always been this way, but just like as I've gotten older and matured, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Like it truly, truly does.
I'm the same exact way.
Like, but if you were to tell me like I'd be living in Boston, I couldn't spell Massachusetts before I moved here. I can still barely spell Massachusetts, but like, who would have thought I would be living here?
I know. I feel like it seems so foreign too, especially when you're living across the country. Like I could never picture myself even living in Oregon.
I was just talking to some friends the other day, and I was talking about, oh yeah, like I've been to Montana because my brother used to live there. I'd drive from Oregon through Idaho to Montana, and they're like, aren't Oregon and Idaho like the same thing? And I'm like, huh? What I was telling you guys, like I drove 16 hours and I went through 2 states, Oregon and California.
And it's crazy because on the East Coast, if you're driving 16, you're going to end up in like, almost to Florida. Yeah. And that's so many states. It's crazy because California takes up literally almost
the entire
coast.
Yeah.
It's nuts. Okay, so you moved to Boston. You've been here for a year and a half, and then fast forward from when you moved here to December of 2022, this past December, when we met. People are probably wondering how we met Chase and how we all became friends. Do you want to tell the story?
The first time I was ever introduced, not even in person, to you guys, it started, and I'm sure Peyton's told you this before, it started with Peyton's sister and Peyton's mom kind of watching your guys' vlogs, and Peyton's sister kind of being like, oh, you guys got to be friends with Maggie and Emma. Like you guys should be friends with Maggie and Emma. Like they seem like you guys would be really good friends. And Peyton and I are like, okay, like if we see him out, yeah, sure, but it's not like DM, hey, that was like the first time like I knew you guys did the whole YouTube thing, and like kind of were in like that influencer space. But then yeah, like you were saying, I had seen you guys kind of just in public. So at Tate, I went to Tate for kind of like a meetup, connecting with another creator out here. And there's like this table of girls sitting next to me, like 3 girls. And I could tell they're like waiting for people. And I'm in the middle of like my meeting, like really locked in. All these girls, like these 3 girls just stand up and they're like, oh my God, hey. And I turn around, I'm like, what the? And it was you guys walking in and having a meeting. And I'm like, oh.
Those are those sisters.
Yeah, I'm like, those are the sisters. Should I stand up and be like, hi, you want to be friends? So that was one of them.
Literally, I think it was like a month or like a few weeks later is when we were at Lola.
Yeah.
And you were there too.
Yeah. So we were standing at the bar, and you 2 and your dad were at the little table like the
near
standing
the bar,
table.
yeah.
And we were literally like, if I would have turned around and like flung my arm, I would have.
So you guys heard our conversation.
Yeah, I fully could have been eavesdropping. But like, isn't that weird to think that like, at that moment in time, we were complete strangers.
Yeah.
Complete strangers. Like, we spend, Emma, you and I, like almost every day together. Yeah. We've been on a trip together. You and I have gotten way closer. But I'm like, now you're like, we went from strangers to family and literally like.
So quick. I think that like, you know, sometimes how people will talk about, like just for an example I've seen on TikTok, people will be like, oh, my parents like grew up in the same town, like they have pictures together from when they're little. Like our parents
Had the photo of them like back to back.
Yes,
at a parade.
there's a parade, like a 4th of July parade on the Cape. And so my grandfather, my dad's dad, he was like announcing something from the parade, and he's standing up on this big like platform thing, and there's like a photo of him, a really old photo, and to his right is my dad, and my dad's probably like 7 years old, and then on the other side of my grandpa, literally on his left, is my mom, and she was like 11 because they're 4 years apart. So isn't that nuts? And so my Nana finds the picture and is like, they're looking through old pictures one day, and my mom's like, that's literally me. Like there was a photo of my dad and my mom right next to each other. They had no idea who each other were. They didn't meet until my mom was like in college. So it's like insane. Nuts how you like run into people and you're with people that you don't know are gonna like end up meaning like so much in your life. So it's so crazy.
I just saw something similar to that. I think it was on Twitter. It's a girl like on her first day of freshman orientation in college. Like her parents took a photo in front of like maybe like her dorm or something. And she's like holding her boxes with like her stuff moving in. And like in the background is like a kid with his boxes like carrying it somewhere. And like fast forward to their senior year, those 2 are dating, and they found that photo. And it's like he's just like somewhere off in the background, like carrying something.
Even Peyton and I went to the same, like a college football game tailgate, and then we were at the same bar after. But we never met each other.
You guys didn't even know you were there.
And also like we saw him at Lola, didn't even see each other, you know?
I know. It's so crazy. But I'm so glad that we all met, and now we're like a little family.
You know what's crazy?
It's so fun.
This is like kind of on the same topic of that, but this is something that like my mom has talked to me about. So like when I was applying to colleges, I wanted to go to a school. I wanted to go to Boulder, but then I also applied to schools in Arizona. And my mom just loves her kids so much, and she's like, I don't know if I want you to go out of state. Obviously she would have let me if I really, really wanted to. But she's like, I don't want you to go out of state because what if you meet a girl, and then what if, like you marry that girl and you never come home. Stuff like that. But I'm like, sometimes I think about like when I was in San Diego, what if like, I start dating someone on the East Coast, and this whole time, like you just never know. Even like with my work, like if I were to move to go work for an NBA team or something like that, this whole time in my mind I could be like, oh yeah, like I'm trying to meet someone, in Boston or Massachusetts, or when like life's plan is like actually I'm gonna meet that person in Arizona.
Oh my God, I know. That's crazy.
Oh my God, it's like crazy because also you can't, as much as us as humans like want to like control our lives and like think about what we want and like what we're gonna do to get it, it's like you really never know. Like you really have to just like let go and like let things come to you and like let it flow. Okay, so how did you get started in photography? And like did you know that ever since you were little that you always wanted to be a photographer? Was it like you had a camera and you were like being super creative as like a young kid? Or like, how did you get started? Tell us your story.
It actually kind of started in college, but like to give background, excuse me, I've always been a creative person. Like I've always naturally been really good at drawing. Like in elementary school, I remember my elementary school was, I want to say kindergarten to 6th grade, and there was like a musical thing or something, and there was a brochure that like, you know, the whole crowd would get. And so they let the students, everyone, like draw and like design the brochure. And I was in like 3rd grade and I won the whole competition. I've always just been, you know, kind of good at drawing and like had a creative perspective. Like my handwriting is really good. Not to like boost myself, but like I've always just been good with like the arts and visuals. I'm a visual learner. By
You have a very
far.
good eye.
Yeah, and that's something that came just naturally, I guess. And all that's like subjective based on like, oh, like you have a really good vision for this, and you know what I mean? But so the photo thing started with actually my iPhone and like a class. When I was in college, I got my degree in advertising, so a lot of my classes were visual and shooting projects and campaigns and stuff like that. And I remember my friends were doing a project, but they wanted photos taken just kind of on the side. And I didn't have a camera, so I just brought my phone, took photos, showed my friends after, and they were like, "Oh my God, like, what camera? We didn't even see that you brought your camera." And I'm like, "Oh, I don't have one." And they're like, "You should get a camera. Like, these are, for iPhone photos, like, these are pretty solid." So fast forward that summer, I moved in with my sister for the entire summer. I just lived with me, my sister, and my brother-in-law. And I had an accounting internship. And I didn't know that many people in San Diego. And I was making like $35 an hour, which is like for me pretty good.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, I was getting like full time. So like my checks were like $1,500, and I was like, I think I paid my sister like $500 in rent just like as like a thing. You know what I mean? But then so that summer I bought my first camera. I drove like 45 minutes, found it on Craigslist.
The one that got stolen.
The one that ended up getting stolen. Drove like 45 minutes in San Diego to this old man's house, and he just like, I remember like cupping this camera in his hands, like just gave it to me. And then from there, it was really, I was shooting everything. Like I was literally just walking around San Diego, photos of flowers, people, food, the sky, bird, like literally anything, street signs, like just anything that I thought looked cool. I was doing it. And then that kind of kept going into my junior year of college. And then I lived with Peyton and I's really good friend Dylan. I lived with him my sophomore year, but that's kind of also where it started. Started doing the stuff, iPhone sophomore year, and then that summer was when I actually had a camera. But Dylan and I would walk around Eugene, Oregon, where the University of Oregon is, and like he's really into like streetwear, fashion at the time. So we were literally having full-on photo shoots, like sitting on curbs and like leaning against fences.
No way.
I'm taking like iPhone photos.
Stop
and then
it.
like editing them. And then I have to give so much credit to Dylan, because the way that I really met Peyton was through Dylan. Dylan and Peyton were best friends, and I lived with Dylan. So then Peyton would come over to our apartment, and I knew Peyton, like, of him growing up. Obviously, we're the same age, and like his career in basketball, obviously it's hard not to know him, especially if you play high school sports. And then so Peyton and I's relationship really grew through Dylan, and Dylan was actually the one that was like, "Yo, P, like, you should have Chase come to a workout and like take photos." And then from there, like, basketball has always been my favorite sport, and like the one thing that, like, the first thing that I fell in love with. But from there, once I like started taking photos of like Peyton working out and like more basketball stuff, I was like, this is two worlds colliding of like what I'm supposed to be doing. So then I put more attention towards basketball, but also was shooting other things just to like pay rent. So like when I moved to San Diego the second time, or after I graduated, when I moved to San Diego, parents weren't too stoked. on it, just because you know how parents are. It's not that promising. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna move to San Diego and do photo and video stuff.
Especially when you haven't already established yourself and like know that you can do
really
it.
Show.
Exactly. And so obviously as a parent, they're gonna be like, are you sure? Like that's how our parents were with YouTube. Like they don't understand.
I was also sleeping on a couch.
And I think I'm like such a big believer that like the dream that you have in your head and like your thoughts about what you want to do, it's like not, it's put there for a reason, you know, because it's like.
And it's really not for other people to understand.
Exactly.
Like that's a really hard conversation to have, especially when it's your parents. Luckily, like I had parents that were like, if you're gonna screw up, like we told you so. You know what I mean? Like,
but go do it and see what happens. And
then
I love that.
I did it. This was the summer before I moved there full time, but I went and I did it. Slept on a couch, made no money at all, but I got published in 2 magazines and like worked for a restaurant. And I remember like sending in the family group chat, like sending them do you know what Eater magazine is?
No.
It's like a big food magazine for like opening bars and restaurants or whatever. I remember sending them the link. I didn't say anything. I just sent them the link. And in my family group chat, my mom and dad are like, this is a cool restaurant. And I'm like, yeah. Who do you think took the photos for the thing? Like, oh my God. So that was kind of like
so cute.
Okay. Then they were kind of like, oh, like he's serious. Like this isn't like a hobby type thing. So yeah, and that was a really long answer to your question, but. No,
that's good. We love all the details.
Yeah.
And then now you're in Boston and you are doing basketball.
Yeah.
NBA. For Boston Celtics.
I don't work for the Celtics, but because Peyton plays for them, I have access. So like that is primarily the people that I am shooting.
Yes.
Yeah.
So do you want to go into a little bit of detail about like what you are doing currently?
Yeah. So right now, I mean, Peyton is like my main priority, obviously. My goal is to help him build his social media through photo, video stuff. We've talked about doing more like off-season personal stuff, whether it's like a vlog or like recaps of, just workouts and stuff like that. So that's my main goal. He's injured right now, so he hasn't been playing for like the last couple weeks. And then other than that, I do freelance stuff on the side. Actually, the Boston Marathon is coming up. So I'm shooting for Nike.
Next week?
Yeah. So
oh my God, that's awesome.
I'm shooting for Nike on the 15th and 16th, and then Marathon Mondays on the 17th. And then I'm shooting for like a running agency, which is kind of cool. And I get this, my one job is to track like 10 runners, and I stay at the finish line all day.
And you just take pictures of...
I'm just photo for that project.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah. So that's like the main, work stuff. And then I also do remote video editing for one of my friend's TikTok agencies. So, yeah.
You're very good at the TikTok edits.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Like one time I told you this, but this was like a month ago. I was on my For You page just scrolling and this video came up and I'm like, this is such a cool video. I wasn't like reading the username or anything and it was literally your video.
NBA player.
Yeah.
But you're very talented and very good at what you do. Like you just have such an eye for things and it's just like you see things from a different perspective that I feel like not everybody can, and I feel like it's like a gift that you have.
It
Thank
really
you. I
is.
appreciate that.
So we're gonna move on into the next section, which is gonna be kind of like a rapid fire questions of just dating in your 20s and your perspective on dating. Okay. Because I feel like it's important to have a guy's perspective.
100%.
If you're the girl going on a date with a guy, like you don't know what they're thinking, you don't know what goes through guys' heads.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Are you giving me scenarios and like what?
Well, we have like a set of questions.
Okay.
Are you on dating apps, and which ones are your favorite if you are?
When I came out here, I was on Hinge, and then I think like a month after I got accepted onto Raya. So I was on both of those, and honestly, like I've never been on a date from one of those apps, so I can't really say. I don't know which one is like my quote unquote favorite.
Since you're on both or either, but being on them, like, do you like when girls message you first on apps?
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. It's weird though, because I was also just talking about this with someone. I think like the whole dating app thing, the best part of it, I don't know if it's the same for girls, is like when you connect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like all the hype is built and like excitement is built around connecting, and then like nothing happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, we connected.
No.
Now what? Like, and I'll message and sometimes it doesn't go anywhere, and I'm like, what was the point of?
Especially on Raya, because I mean, when I was single like in 2021, yeah, this was like a few years ago. I was
like
on
the first person I
Raya.
saw on Raya when I came out here, by the way.
Really? Wait, yeah. Chase saw me on Raya back in the day.
Did you ever see me on it?
No.
I never saw you either.
I like wouldn't see Boston people on my Raya.
I wouldn't either.
Well, I just think that also being a girl, like you want the guy to message you first, but
Yeah.
like as a guy, having the girl message you and like initiate the conversation, I feel like that's better than you messaging her.
I'm always gonna message
Yeah.
first, just because I'm like, I want to talk to you. You know, we connected for a reason. I'm honestly like at first glance and like reading your bio, like I'm interested. But yeah, ladies, like shoot your shot. Why?
Yeah,
like, why
seriously.
not?
I feel
You know
like
what
it's
I mean?
like when girls shoot their shot, it's like,
You're like, wow.
But
yeah.
it's like if you already connected, you have nothing to lose.
You have nothing
They
to
already
lose.
like
And
you.
also, if nothing comes out of it, nothing comes out of it. Next question. What's your go-to first date idea?
You're meeting up with a girl, like would you do drinks, would you do coffee, or would you do like a sit down dinner?
I think one of the best things to do is getting drinks, but and then after you get drinks, or maybe you get drinks and food, and then you go meet up with like people, like a group, like a group of friends. Because like you have that like one-on-one, just you guys, but and then
Yeah.
it's like you're not really putting pressure on anything, because you know like towards the end of the night there might be that awkward of like, am I going to your house? Or just like, you know what I mean? Like, or do you think like that's what this is? But then like you go out with friends and then it kind of just like eases.
It's
everything.
natural.
Yeah.
Also, I think that I agree, because dinner sometimes I think is like a little,
It can be kind of serious.
like, unless you're sitting at the bar and like having dinner at the bar, but also like eating on the first date is kind of like, a drink is perfect.
I'm definitely like, I think one like date that I've been on out here, it was with a girl who I was already like I'd gone on multiple dates with. But like one thing we did is we literally got La Colombe and we walked, hot girl walk.
Oh, I love that, like a coffee walk.
Yeah. You don't have like a lot of room for like awkward moments because you're walking and like you're in the city and you're outside. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Yeah.
That's like kind of the best first date is when you can kind of be around people but you do have that time where it's like one-on-one.
Would you ever date one of your friend's exes?
Would I ever date one of my friend's exes?
Like, say if it was like a friend.
Absolutely not.
Wait, I was just like so confused while you were just thinking. I was like, excuse me?
I've seen on TikTok, a girl was like, oh, I was dating this kid and I started,
No.
like we broke
Absolutely
up
not.
and then his best friend and I ended up getting married.
No. That's just so against code of friendship.
I agree.
It's so like beyond me. I mean, it's like, are you not thinking about everything that's about to ensue after you do that? Like, great, now your homie, he's not coming to your wedding.
Yeah.
Like, you're not kicking it. And you actually just kind of ruin the whole. You mess it up for everyone else involved in
Yeah.
your friend group. I've had friends who, you know, like maybe at one point, my friend and this girl were only hooking up, and then like a friend a couple years later starts dating them. And it's like, okay, yeah, you're fine. But there's always that like, you're out in public and you see them with their now girlfriend, but you're like, I used to sleep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just that awkwardness always going to be lingering.
Yeah.
That never goes away.
Right. So no, absolutely not.
Do you always plan on paying on the first date? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So even if the girl like puts her card down and says we can split it, you're gonna be like, no.
Oh my God, look, there's a puppy. Grab her card and then give them mine. So just like another small background, but my parents were divorced. So by the time I was like a year old to like when I met my stepdad when I was 5, it was just me, my older sister, and my mom. So I'm very much a mama's boy. Like when I was younger, like I was a crier. I'll admit it. Like I was soft. I was just with like my mom and my sister, and they would like baby me because I was the youngest one. You know what I mean? So I've always been like, my mom has just always like instilled that like gentleman and going like above and beyond and like holding doors and like holding car doors. You know what I mean? And like being super, super respectful to parents.
And that's a really good quality to have though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like really good. And also like the fact that you are like that and you said that you're emotional. Like
Yeah.
some guys think that they have to completely block that
For
out
sure.
and like show no emotion at all because it won't be like manly.
Also, I think it's attractive for a guy to show their emotions.
Me
When they
too.
don't show emotions and they're like, I'm not emotional, blah, blah, blah. I'm
Like,
like,
bro, you're not that
shut
hard.
up. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you are emotional. It's like
I also think it's
a
actually
lie.
more. I think it's more manly to fully be in touch with your emotions.
Yeah, and be
like,
vulnerable.
Understand like what you feel and why you feel that way.
It's also a level of maturity.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Like there's nothing wrong with crying. It's human nature.
And I think that it's so healthy because like sometimes I just cry for no reason and I just will feel so overwhelmed and I'll cry and then like you feel so much better after. Like you need
Yeah.
to release your emotions.
Yeah.
And like the
I
more
mean, everyone feels every single sort of emotion. You know what I mean? No matter how quote unquote manly you are or whatever. It's not like you don't feel stress or anxiety or sadness. Like you are a human being and everyone else is too, so act like it.
it's
Yeah.
normal.
Do you have a worst first date story?
Oh, do I have a worst first date story? Yeah, I guess. One that comes to mind was, I think I was maybe like a freshman in college. Took this girl out, just got food, but it's not even really that bad. Got food, we're sitting down, she noticed her ex-boyfriend was there with a different girl, and like I could tell it just like completely ruined the date because she clearly still felt some type of way. So like I'm like sitting there like trying to not be awkward. You know what I mean? And I'm like,
But there's like a
trying-
huge elephant in the room.
yeah, and I'm like trying to like trying to keep conversation going. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, why are your eyes looking over there all the time? You know what I mean? But,
yeah.
It just like, it was just, yeah.
Yeah, like probably one of the last things that you would want to happen on a date. Like,
It's like the girl's ex-boyfriend being there. Yeah, and like now this guy's looking at me like, haha. And I'm like, okay, you know, I'm just trying to enjoy like my dorm food. Yeah.
Damn.
what do you think dating in Boston is like compared to other cities that you lived in? So like Oregon, San Diego, Boston.
Yeah.
How is it different compared to?
Okay, so Oregon is like, I grew up there. Oregon's probably the hardest place to date in just because.
Really?
I mean, for me, I feel like where you grow up, especially like the community that I'm from, it's so small. It's literally called like the bubble, like the Lake
Yeah.
Oswego bubble. Everyone knows everyone. Like the people that I went to first grade with, I graduated with all of them in high school. Like I've known them my whole life. You know what I mean? So that's really hard just because everyone just kind of like knows you. Moving to San Diego, new place, a lot easier just because there's a lot more to do when the weather's nice. People are outside, it's the beach. There's a lot more different things you can do, you know, like, hey, like, do you want to go hike? Do you want to go to the beach? Do you want to ride bikes? Do you want
Yeah,
to walk
there's
the
so many
boardwalk?
There's a lot to
activities you
do.
can
So many
do.
more things you can do. I mean, and even Boston too. I feel like I've never lived in like a city before in terms of like proximity. So I feel like Boston's so walkable, and there's a lot of good food places to go to. And when the weather's nice, and it's like a great place to go to a park or just do something outside. So
Yeah.
I'd say it's been a good experience in terms of like just meeting people. Most of the places we go out, I feel like, are really busy. You know what I mean?
And there's so many young people here. People from Connecticut, New York,
Michigan.
Rhode Island. Like they all come here.
Yeah.
So it's just like so many people come from everywhere to come live in Boston after they graduate, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
So it's like a very, very young city.
For sure.
Okay, so now to finish off the episode, we have more questions for Chase, but these are the questions that you guys had for him on Instagram. So thank you so much for sending in your questions if you did.
Did you guys say the names of the people who asked?
No,
No, it's anonymous.
It's anonymous. We keep everybody's questions private, or their names private.
Yeah.
So we have really good questions for you.
Let's get into it.
First question, what is your favorite part of getting to see the behind the scenes of athletes' lives?
My favorite part's the off season, personally. It's by far my favorite thing to shoot, like workouts and just like the day to day. The workout side specifically, just because when Peyton and I are in LA, you have a bunch of players from different teams coming to the same gym. So like, you kind of build these relationships in the summer, And like I've met guys that I really just see in the summer. So it's like every time I come back, it's like, you know, with that certain trainer or like player, it's like, oh, like what's good? Like how was your season? Like, you know, I saw that you were killing it. And just shooting things that no one sees, like that no one has access to.
Yes.
Like the off-season workouts when it's literally Peyton and the trainer.
That's so cool to be able to show that perspective, because obviously people who like follow that players and follow the teams, like they get to see everything they do during the season. But I think it's super important to also show the off season.
For sure, it's super personal. You go from like TD Garden fits almost 20,000 people. So like 20,000 people, everyone can see you play. And then you go to like this gym in LA that has 5 people. So.
I love that. Next question, what camera do you use for BTS photos? So like your go-to.
I only have one camera.
Okay.
So my camera, I have the Sony A7 III. I have 2 lenses that I primarily use. The first one is a Tamron 28 to 75 millimeter. It's f2.8. And then my favorite lens of all time is a Sony G Master. It's a 70 to 200 millimeter. So that's more for like further away.
Okay.
And that's also an f2.8. I use that lens probably 90% of the time.
Why is it your favorite?
It's my favorite because the images are just very crisp, and it just allows me to shoot from far away instead of, you know, having to be like right up in the middle of the workout, or I can kind of be off to the side and stuff like that.
Is it like, you know, when paparazzis like hide in the bushes and take pictures of
that's
celebrities? Is it like that?
No, it's probably one of those. Yeah.
What, if any, new industry trends are being noticed from around the league?
I think a lot more people, Peyton included, are showing a lot more of like fashion.
No matter what, the NBA has always been like the most. I mean, they're the only professional league that's been able to like people wear like whatever they want to wear to games. Every other one, you have to dress up.
You have to wear like a suit.
So hockey, you have to dress up.
Yeah.
There's definitely a way larger emphasis on like the tunnel. They call it the tunnel, like when you walk in, the tunnel fits and stuff like that. So I think that's just been like a huge trend. But I think like from the general perspective, just showing more personal life is becoming a trend. And if you want to build your brand, you have to do that, because all that fans and viewers and people want to feel is relatable. You know what I mean? So when, you know, like I make a TikTok of living with an NBA player and people are like, oh my God, like Peyton like sits on the couch and like watches a TV show. I'm like,
yeah, because all they see is him like on
playing.
the court. They
Yeah,
don't see like
right.
Yeah, and
I'm
they
like,
see like professional videos and videos of him doing interviews, but it's
Right.
like,
I'm like-
getting to see that behind the scenes.
yes. So I think just that's been a trend, is players opening up more and just kind of really showcasing their true personality, where at first maybe they thought, oh, like this is a business, I have to only post basketball
it creates a better
stuff or
relationship
whatever.
too with your fans.
For sure, 100%.
For example, like big celebrities, like I love when they do like more personal content
For sure.
and kind of show like the real side of them, not like that perfect image
Right.
that's just like not real life.
100%.
You know, it's like so curated. So that's really cool.
Like iPhone photos, for
Yes.
example. People are posting way more iPhone photos because it's raw and it's real, and it's everyone these days has an iPhone. You know what I mean? So like posting like low exposure iPhone photos is like so in.
And just like not caring about the way that your Instagram looks, just like posting everything that's just been going on in your life.
Yeah.
Like I love that. Peyton's been doing that a lot. Next question, how does Chase maintain his peak physical condition?
Chase works out
You work out a lot.
You work it a lot, yeah.
5 days a week. I mean, and then sometimes like, would you consider like walking on the treadmill?
Yes, that's a
okay.
workout.
So like maybe sometimes 6 maybe. I'm not perfect. I'll have weeks of 6 days, weeks of 5 days, weeks of 2 days, weeks
Yeah.
of 3 days. You know what I mean? But whoever said that, shout out to you. Thank you. I used to, when I graduated high school, I was 6'3", 185 pounds. I'm now almost 6'7", and I'm like 215.
Wow.
Yeah.
6'7", wow.
And I'd say 90% of it is your diet, 10% of it is working out. The thing I'm working on right now is stop eating after like 8 p.m.
A lot of people have been doing that too. And I feel like it's so important because it gives your body time to digest
For sure.
all of your food, and then you wake up in the morning and you just like feel so light.
Yes.
And just like not inflamed and
Right. Also, sleep is like cannot be overstated. It's so important.
Yeah, it
especially
is.
for, shape and muscle growth and all that.
Okay, we have our last question. Does Chase want to go on a date with me?
Not you.
Not me. No, not me. I'm taken. But somebody wants to. Don't worry, Mac. Somebody wants to know.
Mac is rolling over right now.
Mac is touching the air. Mac is screaming, crying, throwing up.
It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay.
Somebody was wondering if you wanted to go on a date with them.
Yeah, what time should I pick you up, I guess?
Ooh. Okay, well, thank you guys all so much for tuning in. That was so fun. Honestly, this was one of my favorite episodes that we've
That
done.
was so silly.
And Chase, you can plug your socials. Like, where can everyone find you? Also, if you have any upcoming projects or anything you're working on that you want to mention.
You guys can find me on Instagram at chase.mccann, chase.mccann. And then I'm on TikTok at chase took it. Super corny, I know.
No, I love it.
No, that's so you.
And projects I have coming up. Not sure. I'm kind of in like the middle of this like potential new job.
Well, you have the Nike stuff coming up.
Nike stuff coming up.
And you got the marathon. And the marathon would be sick. And also like playoffs is coming up.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So
You have a lot. It's a busy season.
We got the Boston Marathon. We got NBA playoffs coming. So I'm sure there'll be some photos and videos.
For sure.
And follow along his socials so you can see also behind the scenes of all that stuff, and then when the content comes out when you're posting it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Make sure to obviously subscribe to the podcast. Give us a rating. And you can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow Em and I on our socials. They're always linked in the show notes.
If you're listening to the podcast and you're not following them on social media, come on.
Seriously.
And we will see you guys next week.
Love you.
Love you. Bye.